Welcome to the Editorial Conclusions mini lesson. So if you're watching this mini lesson, you have written your introduction, you've written your fact sections, you've embedded those links to those secondary sources, and now you are finally ready to wrap up this editorial. This will be the shortest section of your article, just like it's one of the shortest paragraphs in an essay. For all nonfiction writing pieces, so including articles, editorials, essays for school, conclusions wrap up an article and remind the reader what the main point that the author was trying to prove. You're just reminding your reader, hey, this is what I was talking about, don't forget. For an editorial, you have a few different options when writing the short conclusion section. So let's talk about them. Conclusion option number 1, I'm calling the now what. This conclusion type gives the reader suggestions as to where they should go from here. So, for instance, for the Halloween article, which was really about the pros and cons of what you can do with Halloween candy, whether you should restrict it or just give it to them all at once, this author gave specific advice at the end to say, parents, here's what you should really do with the Halloween candy. So let's take a look at this conclusion section. Focus on making healthy choices. It is important for adults to focus on helping kids make healthy choices rather than controlling weight. Research suggests that commenting on children's weight can increase the likelihood of unhealthy dieting as well as binge eating and other eating disorders. Think about how you want your family to approach food and treats. Everyone can learn to practice balanced food habits, and I'm willing to bet you'd all be happier and healthier as a result. So as you can see, the author makes sure to hit the point home that you need to talk with your family. You don't need to pick on kids about their weight, that's just going to lead to other problems down the line. It's okay to be that explicit with your opinion because this is an editorial. Let's take a look at another conclusion option. Number 2, acknowledge the con. Another option is to bring up the opposite points to your argument. And you did plan this out on your editorial planning sheet where you spent a few sentences kind of saying why sometimes restricting speech is okay. If you do this though, don't forget to make your last sentence tie back to your argument. Otherwise, it kind of makes you look wishy-washy, like you're changing your mind as you're writing. So here's an example about the topic that I picked, about privacy of information and what different media platforms like Amazon and Facebook and Google do with that information once they get it. So here's my conclusion. Shopping made easier, but at what cost? Amazon and other media platforms that track our information has certainly made life a lot easier. I know that I have personally ordered more items because they were specifically suggested for me based on my shopping history. In the end, though, these media conglomerates should not have access to my personal information and shopping history because who knows how they might use this information against me in the future. So I start in this first paragraph acknowledging why and how it's made my shopping life easier, and why some people might think it's not a big deal, but I make sure that my last sentence is all about how it's a big problem. And that's what you need to do as well if you choose this option of acknowledging the con. Conclusion number 3 is returning back to the connection that maybe you opened up in the introduction. And I know that there were a few people that chose to introduce their editorial in this way. So if you made a connection to another event in history, you can bring your editorial point home by referencing this event again. So let's take a look at that article about U.S. soccer and the World Cup. And if you remember, in the introduction section, the author talked about the Nationals' loss at the end of the season and how that wasn't as catastrophic as the U.S. soccer men's team losing their qualifier for the World Cup. The Nats will be back next season. My guess is they will make the playoffs and have another chance for the World Series. The World Cup is played only every 4 years. The U.S. men will not have a chance to appear on soccer's biggest stage until 2022. That's a big loss. So again, it talks about how the Nats have another chance, but the U.S. soccer team doesn't have another chance for another 4 years. And again, showing how different that loss is. Okay, and our final option is conclusion number 4, looking towards the future. And this is similar to the now what version, except this time you are referencing events in the future about how things might be different, rather than just telling people what they should do. You may also make predictions about the future or leave your reader with a question to ponder or think about. So let's take a look at our article that we looked at about Moana and how Moana is using characters of descent from the Polynesian Islands that makes it different from previous movies. Now with Moana, Disney has changed the way mainstream American animated movies are cast. It appears that other movies are inspired by Disney. Judging by early signs, the animated movie Coco, which is in production, features a Day of the Dead theme and promises to be as culturally aware as Moana. The Day of the Dead is a holiday celebrated in Mexico. After all, if animated films can't find actors of color to voice their characters, what chance does the rest of Hollywood have when the film characters are real people? So this references an event in the future, and as you know, Coco came out, and it apparently is very good. I know that my husband loved it. I haven't seen it yet. And it's gotten great reviews, and it's talking about something in the future, but then it also leaves the reader with kind of something to think about. If our animated movies don't have people that reflect their characters, will we start whitewashing other movies as well and not including characters that are the actors that are true to the character? So I hope you found this editorial conclusion mini lesson helpful, and now you should feel ready to wrap up that editorial and write your conclusion section.